United States is often called the land of freedom, but freedom is always balanced by laws. While many laws are designed to maintain order, safety, and fairness, some laws stand out because of their unusual wording or oddly specific restrictions. These laws, though real, may sound unusual, unnecessary, or even humorous today. However, each of them was created for a reason, usually tied to a particular problem in history or a very specific incident that lawmakers wanted to prevent from happening again. Here are the top 10 strangest U.S. laws, explained in detail. Law number 1. Georgia. No giraffes on telephone poles or street lamps in the state of Georgia. It is illegal to tie a giraffe to a telephone pole or a street lamp. This law appears odd because giraffes are not common domestic animals in Georgia, but during the 19th and early 20th centuries, circuses frequently traveled across the United States, often bringing exotic animals with them. These animals were sometimes tied to posts or poles while handlers prepared their shows. In Georgia, this practice eventually led to a law forbidding giraffes from being tied in such places, most likely to prevent accidents, property damage, or public disturbances. The law illustrates how rules can be written for very specific circumstances that may no longer be relevant today. Nevertheless, the law remains a curious example of how states attempted to manage unusual situations brought on by traveling circuses and exotic animal displays. Law number 2. Alabama. No fake mustaches in church that cause laughter. In Alabama, it is against the law to wear a fake mustache in church. If the mustache causes laughter, this law is highly specific. The main intent was to prevent disruptions during church services, which were considered solemn and serious gatherings. At some point in history, disruptions caused by individuals wearing humorous disguises, particularly fake mustaches, were evidently frequent enough that lawmakers decided to address it directly. The language of the law emphasizes that the violation only occurs if the mustache actually causes laughter. This means a fake mustache that goes unnoticed may not technically break the rule, but one that distracts or amuses people is considered unlawful. The law reflects how seriously church services were regarded in the past, and how lawmakers sometimes addressed problems with extraordinary precision. Law number 3. California. No whistling for canaries before 7 a.m. In Berkeley, California, there is a local ordinance that makes it illegal to whistle for a lost canary before 7 o'clock in the morning. The reasoning behind this unusual law lies in noise control. Cities often establish quiet hours during early morning periods to allow residents to rest undisturbed. Instead of broadly prohibiting loud noises, this law specifically mentions whistling for canaries. This may have been included because bird owners frequently whistle to call their pets back, and the sound was likely considered disruptive to neighbors during early morning hours. Although the law is oddly specific, it demonstrates how noise regulations can sometimes be written with very particular examples in mind. Law number 4. Connecticut. Pickles must bounce in Connecticut. For a pickle to be legally classified as a pickle, it must be able to bounce when dropped. This rule dates back to the 1940s, when officials were concerned about fraudulent or low-quality pickles being sold in the state. 2 men had been selling pickles that were considered unsafe for consumption. Food inspectors at the time determined that real, properly preserved pickles had a unique firmness and texture that caused them to bounce when dropped. The fraudulent pickles, however, would not bounce. Thus, the bounce test became the standard for determining whether a pickle was legitimate. The law shows how food safety and consumer protection laws sometimes used unconventional tests to ensure quality. Law number 5. Florida. No singing while wearing a swimsuit in Florida. There is a law that prohibits singing in public while wearing a swimsuit. The origin of this law comes from attempts to regulate public behavior, particularly around beaches, pools, and recreational areas. Lawmakers aimed to preserve public decency and discourage rowdy gatherings. Singing in a swimsuit was apparently viewed as immodest or disruptive behavior in earlier times, although rarely, if ever, enforced today. This law remains on the books and is an example of how older cultural values often shaped legal codes in ways that seem unnecessary in modern times. Law number 6. Idaho. Candy boxers cannot weigh more than 50 pounds in Idaho. It is illegal to give someone a box of candy that weighs more than 50 pounds. This law was created to prevent bribery and undue influence. In political or business contexts, Individuals might have attempted to curry favor with enormous gifts. Since candy was considered a luxury item in earlier times, a very large box could be viewed as excessive or manipulative. By establishing a weight limit, lawmakers tried to prevent such gifts from being used to unfairly influence decisions. The number 50 pounds seems almost comically high today, but it provided a clear boundary that could be enforced. Law number 7. Indiana. No bare-handed fishing. In Indiana, it is unlawful to catch fish using only your hands. This practice, commonly known as noodling, involves reaching into riverbank holes where catfish hide and pulling them out by hand. While some see it as a traditional form of fishing, it can be dangerous, both to people and to fish populations. Large catfish can injure fishermen, and overuse of the method can harm aquatic ecosystems. Indiana prohibited bare-handed fishing in order to promote safer and more sustainable fishing practices. The law highlights the balance between cultural traditions and conservation efforts. Law number 8. Maine permits required for public dancing in certain towns in Maine. Individuals must obtain a permit in order to dance in public. This law originates from so-called blue laws, which were designed to regulate moral behavior. Lawmakers feared that dancing could lead to disorderly conduct, drinking, or other activities considered inappropriate. By requiring permits, towns maintained control over when and where public dances could be held. Although this rule may sound unnecessary today, it shows how communities once sought to regulate even recreational activities in order to maintain social order. Law number 9. Texas. Selling your eye is illegal in Texas. It is against the law to sell your eye. This law was established to combat organ trafficking. While individuals can donate eyes or other organs for medical purposes, the sale of body parts was deemed unethical and dangerous. Prohibiting the sale of eyes ensured that individuals could not profit from selling their own or someone else's organs. The specificity of the law makes it sound unusual, but it reflects a broader effort to regulate organ donations and prevent black market activity. Law number 10. Utah. No donkeys in bathtubs in Utah. It is illegal to keep a donkey in a bathtub. This law has its origin in a real historical event. In the 1920s, a rancher owned a donkey that regularly slept in an old bathtub on his property. When a dam broke and the area was flooded, the bathtub with the donkey inside was swept away. Rescuers had to chase the animal for miles and eventually saved it. But the event caused considerable effort and disruption. To prevent such a situation from happening again, lawmakers created a law banning donkeys from being kept in bathtubs. Although the circumstances were unique, the law remains on the books today. These unusual laws from across the United States illustrate how legislation can sometimes be shaped by very specific incidents, cultural values, or attempts to solve problems that may no longer exist. While many of them are rarely enforced, they remain part of state legal codes, offering a glimpse into the history and priorities of earlier lawmakers. From giraffes and telephone poles to bouncing pickles and bathtub donkeys, these rules highlight the unusual side of American lawmaking.